Browns continuing preparations for the Ravens here on a Thursday, and a little bit of a sigh of relief because we saw Deshaun Watson way far away from us for the most part today. But Mary Kay, he was throwing the football, which was not the case when we saw him on Wednesday. So everything continues to point to him playing on Sunday. We don't know what kind of limitations he'll have. We don't know how injured that shoulder really is. But it was good at least to see him throwing the football.
Yeah, he's trending in the right direction. And again, it was good to see him out there throwing for the Browns. They, of course, need to have him front and center on Sunday, ready to roll against Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. And he skipped a bunch of reps today, so it's not like he was full go in the early part that was open to us. But he was out there. He was using the shoulder that took a really, really hard shot in the Titans game. But he's out there throwing, and as Alex Van Pelt observed, there's no way Deshaun's not playing on Sunday. No worries.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the reality, Ashley, is even if that shoulder is banged up, nobody's expecting him to not go in this absolutely enormous football game. But again, at least seeing him throw, even though they kept him far away from us, did matter.
We talk about this all the time when players are going through injuries, especially like these nagging injuries or even when they're in the concussion protocol. I think those incremental steps they take each day are really important. And I think as long as you're not seeing a guy take a step backwards and going from participating one day to suddenly participating less the second day as he's ramping back up, I think that's signs pointing in a positive direction.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about Jadeveon Clowney. We haven't talked about him. He's in Baltimore. He's wearing number 24. He looks pretty good. This is the Jadeveon Clowney return, Mary Kay.
Yeah, you know what? Jadeveon seems to be rejuvenated in Baltimore. We all know that he was not happy in Cleveland last year. He wasn't happy with the way that he was used, and it's ironic in some ways because it came to a head really in that Baltimore game in October when he refused to play anything at all, and then because he was being put over Ronnie Stanley instead of Myles Garrett. Chris Kiffin, the defensive line coach, talked him into playing on third down that game, so he at least did that. Now he's over there with the Baltimore Ravens playing well. He leads them with 13 pressures. He's got 1.5 sacks, and you know he's going to want to try to take down his good friend Deshaun Watson, former teammate.
And listen, this is the Jadeveon Clowney experience. You bring him in for a year, you get what you can out of him, and then you have to move on. The Browns learned that lesson the hard way. Maybe that's just where the Ravens are in this cycle, Ashley.
Yeah, I mean, I think I said that yesterday, too. Like, I think this is just what you're going to get with Jadeveon Clowney at this point in his career. But when he is having these stretches where he is happy and playing well, I think it's just kind of a reminder of this is a guy that went number 1 overall in the past. He was that level of draft pick. So I think he can still have these spurts in him. It's about, is he happy? What kind of opportunities is he getting? And right now, with all those injuries the Ravens have on their D-line, he's gotten a lot of chances.
Okay, you know who we don't talk about a lot is the Browns secondary, because we talk so much about this pass rush, which has been great. But the secondary has been great too. We heard from Denzel Ward today. We heard from Grant Delpit, who Denzel told us he thinks is probably having his best season as a pro. Mary Kay, you look across this secondary, we could point to pretty much every starter and say this guy's having his best season as a pro right now.
Yeah, so far they are really flourishing in Jim Schwartz's primarily man-to-man scheme. We even heard Denzel say today that Greg, who's coming back from a hyperextended elbow this game, is the best nickel back in the NFL. That's high praise. So yes, Grant's doing a really nice job. Denzel is as well. I saw ESPN's Ryan Clark give him super high praise today, Denzel. And so these guys are showing out.
Yeah, I mean, just to follow up on that Greg Newsome point too, Ashley. I mean, that is really high praise, especially for a guy who we didn't even think wanted to play in the slot, what was it, 8 months ago?
Yeah, and Jim Schwartz even I asked him about what Denzel said, and Jim basically agreed, said Greg is certainly in the running for that conversation, especially with how physical he's been and how versatile, which is a word that we have heard a lot regarding Greg Newsome. And I did kind of talked to Greg in the locker room very quickly today. He did say that elbow is feeling better. He really appreciated, I think, hearing those words from Denzel Ward. And then I saw he went back on Twitter and said Denzel is probably the best corner in the game right now. So it's kind of interesting to see these guys expressing that about one another.
Well, everybody being nice to each other. Guys, you're in the same locker room. You can just walk up to each other and say this stuff. Come on, let's be friendly. Come on, men, say nice things about other men here. Okay, that's another video. We'll cover everything that happened here at cleveland.com/Browns.